32 years old, the mother of a young daughter, Queen of Egypt, and in the prime of her life. Now she would show Egypt what the daughter of a great king could do. She began the most incredible building program any queen had ever undertaken. Deir el-Bahari was Hatshepsut's mortuary temple, where she could be worshipped after her death. No queen had ever built anything like this for herself, and Egypt must have been stunned. Nestled in the mountains, its clear straight lines allow it to stand out against the rugged background. For the previous century, Egypt's pharaohs had been preoccupied with war, fending off enemies. This is the first major building project since the turmoil. It's a beautiful work of art and a strong political statement. Divine order will be restored. The Queen of Egypt is capable of great things. It was the beginning of a wonderful new life. For 20 years, Hatshepsut had been the dutiful, silent wife of Thutmose II. Now, the energy she had inherited from her father was going to be expressed. Deir el-Bahari was Hatshepsut's coming out announcement. Once again, royal workshops began producing official sculptures of the ruler of Egypt. But Hatshepsut's portraits were different from those of her male predecessors. She was shown as slender, with an aquiline nose and full cheeks, a young woman, fresh and alive. For the next 1,000 years, her statues would set the standard. But wait till you see her obelisks, one of the great engineering achievements of the ancient world. Obelisks are one of the greatest achievements of the ancient world. Hatshepsut was especially proud of the ones she erected at Karnak Temple. If you want to see just how big an obelisk is, there's one lying unfinished in the quarry, still attached to the granite. Every Egyptian obelisk was cut from the same granite quarries in Aswan, about 150 miles south of Thebes. Granite was the only stone strong enough for such a tall monument. This baby weighs as much as 3 jumbo jets. It was an incredible feat to quarry an obelisk. You can still see the channels where workers pounded for months to free it from the quarry. Hatshepsut's 2 obelisks were completed in just 7 months, and she recorded their transportation to Karnak Temple on the walls of her temple at Deir el-Bahari. The obelisks were dragged on sleds to the riverbank and placed on one barge end to end. It must have been an incredible sight. But once at Karnak, the obelisks had to be erected, and that wasn't easy. They were 97 feet high and weighed 350 tons each. There's no written record of how the Egyptians raised obelisks. The current theory is that they were lowered down a ramp onto a large granite base. The obelisk caught on a groove on the base and then was pulled upright with a series of ropes. Want to know what's holding it up? Nothing. Isn't it amazing that the only thing holding an obelisk on its base is its own perfect balance? That's precision for you. On the base of her obelisks, Hatshepsut wrote these words.
She made them as her monument for her father Amun, lord of Thebes, presiding over Karnak, making for him 2 great obelisks of enduring granite of the south. Their summits of electrum, the best of any country, are seen on both sides of the river.
Hatshepsut had every right to be proud. Recently, for a documentary, a team up against the television deadline tried to erect an obelisk much smaller than Hatshepsut's. It was cut out of the quarry with modern machinery, but only manpower was used to position and raise the obelisk. In spite of weeks of effort, expert advice, and hundreds of helpers, they couldn't do it. It still lies in the desert, on its side, testament to ancient Egyptian skills. The score? Hatshepsut 10, modern ingenuity 0. Hatshepsut's ultimate obelisk is the unfinished one in the quarry at Aswan. It weighs nearly 1,000 tons, 3 times the weight of the other obelisks, but this didn't faze Hatshepsut. She was confident it could be quarried, moved, and erected. But it cracked while the workmen were pounding it free from the rock and had to be abandoned. It wasn't Hatshepsut's technology that failed, it was the granite. To do great things, you need great people, and Hatshepsut relied especially on one man, Senmut. She elevated Senmut, her daughter's tutor, to the position of overseer of the works. Hatshepsut knew him very well. She entrusted her only child to him. Senmut's good service to Hatshepsut was well rewarded. He was born a commoner, but rose to the highest offices in the land. Under the patronage of Hatshepsut, he was able to build a shrine at Gebel Silsila, 40 miles north of Aswan. This has always been a special place. Gebel Silsila means mountain of the chain, and legend has it that in medieval times, the Egyptians placed a chain around one of the huge rocks on the riverbank and across the Nile to stop ships from passing. The nobility had private chapels carved along the banks of the Nile to gain favor with Sobek, the crocodile god. This was where the rich and famous of ancient Egypt could flaunt their wealth. It's a beautiful spot, right on the Nile, peaceful. Tourists never come to Gebel Silsila. It took a lot of money to build chapels like these. And here, among the elite of Egypt, Senmut had his chapel. But you have to look very hard to find it. It's not visible from the riverbank. It's tucked away in the rock cliffs, but it has a beautiful view overlooking the Nile. Senmut loved views. There's not much left of the inscriptions, just enough of his titles to identify Senmut. He was a rising star in the court.